Yesterday, I went to Shuri, the headquarters of Birbhum district, after 26 years. Yesterday was 10th of October 2020, and I was posted as DM Birbhum in April 1994. And I remember the day we were supposed to go by Shantiniketan Express from Kolkata, and the SDO Bolpur said that Shantiniketan Express was cancelled. There is some problem in the lines and want us to take the road. We took the black ambassador card that was allotted to ADM Development, Narayan Babu, the trusted old driver, and we went along. In those days, there were no Durgapur Expressway. The NH was not so broad, and it took a long time. And we were on top of that toll that not to go up to Darjeeling Moor. We never knew what Darjeeling Moor was, but to take a steep right turn in a place called that would lead to Gushkara and Bhedia, and take the Fairweather Bridge. The Fairweather Bridge means that the river Ajay during peak summer, as it was in April, would dry up substantially, and somebody was entrusted to make a makeshift road on the bed of the river, and thus one could save a few dozens of kilometers. And after completely covered with dirt, the car, and we reached Bolpur after, I guess, 4 hours, a distance that now takes roughly a little more than 2.5 hours today. And when we reached Shuri after having lunch at Bolpur, and we stayed for a night at the circuit house. And yesterday when I visited, the circuit house was much the same. I visited the same VIP room on the ground floor, and also met one of the old workers, Ganesh. He was then 25 years. He is now about 50 years. Looks the same, put on a bit of weight, and we were so happy to see somebody still around. All others were new. I was trying to observe what had changed in Birbhum, and I could very well see that the roads had improved tremendously, not only Kolkata to Birbhum, but also the new bridge in Ajay. There was no question of this Bhedia bridge. In fact, when I was DM Birbhum after my stint in Birbhum, the new bridge over river Ajay was inaugurated. I remember Somnath Chatterjee, then MP and chairman of Shantiniketan Development Authority, had inaugurated it, and he had also taken a lot of interest in seeing that the bridge was made in the first place. And so there was this beautiful bridge over river Ajay. The road from Bolpur to Shuri was better, it was broader, the riding surface is good, and certainly there are trees lined up, but I could see many constructions on the two flanks of the road. The traffic had increased considerably, the preponderance of two-wheelers, and of course lots of totos or e-rickshaws as we call them. And the town of Shuri, when I entered, was completely congested. Not that it had changed too much, it has had the same feel and look, except that when we would enter the Shuri town after the railway crossing, a huge ROB, railway overbridge, is now being built, but the alternative road is absolutely horrendous, but that is a temporary measure, I guess. And after that, you would cross the police lines and one could see the beautiful green lawns of the parade ground, but no longer there is a 6 feet high concrete wall. And so I thought there was a bit of a claustrophobic sense of confinement in the entrance to the beautiful city of Shuri. I crossed the Purandarpur crossing, congested as always, I remember, and one of the times in the police lines when Virendra was the SP, who is now the Director General of Police, and I had gone together to quell a kind of semi-communal built-up, and there was some kind of a blockade and people would not go away, and we had to go there full of people and RAF and ultimately, without however resorting to violence, we were able to clear off the road and dispel the disturbance. After the circuit house, the district magistrate Moumita very cordially shows us DM bungalow, and I and Urmila were very, very nostalgic, thinking about the days we spent and the very happy days we spent here, lamenting the change over the years of all the rooms except one where where the floor was polished red. Now it's all sparkling vitrified tiles, but we somehow felt a bit of nostalgia about the red shining floor, which still is left at least in one of the rooms in the dining room. I recall that in one of the rooms of DM bungalow there was this myth about some earlier district magistrate having killed his wife. It's completely nonsense, of course. But in one of these days when I was there as district magistrate, there was no air conditioner. It was tremendously hot. Now, of course, all the rooms are air conditioned and very nicely decorated. But we had this rustic area and this huge desert cooler. And one of these days when I was staying alone, Urmila and the children had gone to Kolkata, and I thought I heard noises in that room where once it was said somebody died, the wife of the DM died. All nonsense. Next day morning we checked up and it was just a tap that had been kept open. Birbhum was a very, very nice place, and on Sundays we would go to the very, very nearby Tilpara barrage, the Panagar-Morgram road, which is going just in front of the district magistrate bungalow, was being built. Lazy Sunday evenings we would go to the nearby, I think 5-6 kilometers, to the Tilpara barrage, a beautiful place to spend some time. And I, of course, have very fond memories of Shuri in another way, that my younger son Oiticho was born there in 1995. He was born in Shuri in the Babu Bagan nursing home, and Dr. N.R. Shah, who was there, took great care of the mother and the baby, and they are now, Oiticho and Mojo are both working now, one in Delhi, one in Pune. We went to Rampurhat, we went to Tarapet also yesterday, and I was amazed by the development and the road to Tarapet and the wonderful work done by the Tarapet Rampurhat Development Authority. But that sleepy towns were not there, and I was very, very impressed with the development in and around Tarapet, and I was comparing the situation of Puri in Jagannath, and I would say that this is perhaps better in many regards. Of course, there is no sea or ocean, but otherwise, considering a very busy religious place, it was very, very well kept, well developed, with beautiful gates and many other things. My stay in Birbhum was very peaceful. There was nothing much to recount, no horror stories. It was peaceful, tranquil. The people were good. They talked well. They talked softly. Lots of tribals. The district library is just as it were 26 years ago. Red facade, single-storied. Beside the circuit house, the Shidhu Kanu Dahor, or the cultural section, was also looking the same from the outside. No encroachment, no change, as if time stood still. The only incidents that I can recall now of Birbhum of any value were the floods, and there was flood indeed in Birbhum. Nobody believed it. People thought that in Birbhum there is no flood ever. Actually, it's slightly dry and laterite soil, and I think it was in 95 that we were in such a bad flood that we had to call in the helicopter. And I remember in 95 there were no video cameras, no mobile phones, and my younger brother had returned from the US and given me a handy cam with this cassette, huge handheld videographers. And when I was doing this aerial survey in the state government helicopter, I took a lot of photos, and later when the central relief team would come from Delhi, I showed them the view from the sky, and yes, we got the funds that we wanted as relief calamity funds. The other thing that I remember is that the elections in 96, this was in May 96, it was a very, very long run out, a paper ballot, a simultaneous election with the elections of the state and the center. And I remember the exhaustion in the terrific heat that the counting was going on and on for 48 hours or more, and people were just dropping to sleep on their counting tables, and we had a very hard time, and the team really stood up and completed all the formalities in spite of the human tiredness and unimaginable fatigue in this very, very hot and dry climate that is in May in Birbhum. We passed by that college on our way to Rampurhat, and from Rampurhat we went to Margram. Margram is considered to be, they like to say, the largest village in Asia, because 3 gram panchayats are there in the Margram village itself. And crossing Margram, we went to Baswa, a small village of weavers where we had been 26 years ago with Borun Rai, who was then the STO there, and it was quite nice seeing the silk threads and the machines that had now come in, that had modernized weaving in this sleepy town of Baswa. Birbhum was my first district. It was a great experience serving in the district. No internet, no mobile, and the only way of communication was the radio telecommunication. The internet was just coming with these squeaky noises. We had an air-conditioned small chamber built for doing experiments. A lot of other changes have taken place, all very good. But I did miss yesterday the tranquility, of a district town, the always busy honking of the rickshaws, and it did strike me as a change that is bound to happen with economic development, but a change that I missed.